the diamond problem? Or what if we have fractions and decimals and we can't see it? So we're going to go ahead today and we're going to learn and work on and solve using the quadratic formula. I'm going to go ahead and share a couple videos that actually you should work on and try and memorize as well, the quadratic formula itself. And there's been a lot of people who have made great videos about the quadratic. So let's go ahead and take a look, and we're going to write it down and practice using it for ourselves. So we're going to start with the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula. And here is the quadratic formula. X is equal to, and in the numerator, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through two examples using this and showing you the order of which to solve. So we're going to look at x squared minus 4x minus 14 is equal to negative 2. Okay, so let's look at the steps for this. Now, the first thing you might notice from this equation is it is not in standard form. We need to have everything on one side. So the first step is, if it is not, you need to put into standard form. And we know standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So we're going to do this by very simply adding 2 to both sides. And that gives us x squared minus 4x, negative 14 plus 2 is negative 12. Okay. Our second step, now that we've done this, is we're simply going to take and pull out our a, our b, and our c from the equation. So as we're looking here, we see that it has an a of that invisible 1, a b of negative 4, and a c of negative 12. Okay. And there's just one last step, and that is plug and chug. So that means plug in A for A, B for B, and C for C. So let's jump on in. X is equal to negative B. So we're going to go ahead and just substitute everything in, writing everything exactly as. So negative, and then our B is negative 4, plus or minus the square root. We put parentheses as we're plugging in our numbers. So B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times A. Okay, now our next step is very simple. You're going to look underneath the square root. We're going to solve that first, and you're going to solve two problems. You're going to do your square, and you're going to do this multiplication problem of 3 problems. So make sure when you're using your calculator, you put parentheses around your negative 4 squared. So we're going to turn this whole slew of a mess here into 2 numbers. So x is equal to, we're going to go ahead and do our negative negative, which makes positive 4, plus or minus negative 4 squared is 16. And then we're going to multiply these 3 numbers together, including that negative on the 4. It's always going to be negative 4 times 1 in this case, times negative 12. And as you can see, that becomes a positive 48. So make sure you're including your signs as you're multiplying. So this becomes 16 plus 48. When you're done with that first step of doing your square and multiplying those 3 numbers together, you'll always have 2. All divided by 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're going to continue solving inside the square root. So x is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 64 all divided by 2. Now that 64, what our single digit is underneath our square root, we're actually going to talk about next class. This is called a discriminant. It's called a discriminant, and that's going to tell us, just like perfect square form, how many roots it has, 0, 1, or 2. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we are going to split this into 2 problems. And that's because of that plus or minus here. So one of our answers is going to be 4. We're going to go up the top plus. We're going to have the square root of 64, which is 8, all divided by 2. Our second one, we're going to go around the bottom, and we have 4 minus 8, all divided by 2. Now we're just going to go ahead and solve. 8 plus 4 is 12 divided by 2, which is 6. 4 minus 8 is negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. So we have now found out the roots. Now, the other thing that we can find out very easily from this is we can actually find the vertex. And we can actually do this all along with just our a, b, and c. Our vertex is negative b over 2a, and this is for the x portion of your vertex. So my b is negative 4, so negative 4 is 4 over 2. So that tells me that my vertex has an x value of 2, and then I just plug it into my original equation. 2 squared is 4, negative 4 times 2 is negative 8, minus 12 is negative 16. So I know because of this what my vertex is as well. So that's another kind of little off spurt. Okay, we're going to go ahead and try one more example just to practice. So example 2, we are going to have 8x squared minus 4x minus 18. And in this case, I can tell already that it's in standard form because there's no number on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in by taking out my a, my b, and my c. My a is 8, my b is negative 4, and my c is negative 18. And now I'm going to go ahead and put that into my quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Now all I have to do is go ahead and solve. Once again, I'm going to do 2 problems. I'm going to do my negative 4 squared, and I'm going to multiply those 3 numbers together, and those are going to stay underneath the square root. So x is equal to negative 4 is 4, plus or minus the square root, negative 4 squared is 16, and then in my calculator, I'm going to multiply those 3 numbers together. Negative 4 times 8 times negative 18, and that is a positive 576 all over 16. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and solve these right here. So x is equal to 4 plus or minus 576 plus 16 gives me the square root of 592 all over 16. And this, of course, 592 is my discriminant. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look and see what the square root of 592 is. So I'm going to go second x squared, which gives me the square root of 592. And as you can see, it is not a perfect square. So this right here is what we call the exact answer. So if I asked you for the exact answer, you would leave it underneath the square root symbol. And then that, of course, when I look at it, I don't really know what my roots are. So I could ask you to give me your estimated answer. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to split that up into 2. And we have our first x is equal to 4 plus, and we're going to round this to the nearest hundredth place. So 24.33 all divided by 16. And then our second one is x equals 4 down below minus 24.33 all divided by 16. So we're going to go ahead and do those in our calculator. We have 4 plus 24.33 equals divided by 16. And we get an answer of approximately 1.77. And that's one of our roots. The other one is 4 minus 24.33 equals divided by 16. And our other root is approximately negative 1.27. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to, as always, check our answer in Desmos. So if I'm looking at Desmos, I am going to type in my original problem, which is 8x squared minus 4x minus 18. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at those roots and see if we were correct. So our first root is negative 1.27, and our second root is 1.771. Okay, I could go ahead and find the vertex as well. We can either add those together and divide by 2, or you can go ahead and do your negative b over 2a for your x value and then plug that into your original equation for your y. So we know indeed that the quadratic formula properly gives us those roots. And once again, these are rounded. If it's an exact answer, you need to leave them underneath that square root. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a lot of these, and the key is to be careful and make sure you're following in the correct order. Let's get some practice.